Yo, welcome back to Say Less with your boy Kaz. Once again, thank you for subscribing on youtube.com/Kazeem, Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts. I thank you so much for subscribing and supporting. But obviously, if you want to see it in all its glory, make sure to go to youtube.com/Kazeem. My guest today needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. He's a two-time NBA All-Star. He is an analyst for the NBA on TNT. He is the founder and creator of SLiC and No Label, a production company. You can catch his show, What the F, Baron Davis, on Fuse TV. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for my boy, my man, the legend, B. Diddy, Baron Davis. How you doing, Chief?
What's up, Cass? What's happening, my G?
I'm living, man. I'm living. So, I mean, obviously, doing the best I can given the circumstances in the world, So, obviously, first question I want to ask you is, how's family? How's everything been holding up for you with this whole, social distancing quarantine thing going on?
That's cool, man. Just more time with family, more time to connect, more time to do some soul searching. Um, our kids are good. Kids getting more and more creative by the day. So, I think that's the most important thing. Um, is this is a great opportunity for me to not travel and to be around my kids, be around my family, things like that.
That's good to hear, man. And more important than that, yesterday was your birthday. So, happy
Yeah,
birthday
yeah,
to you as well.
yeah. Now that
So,
was
how was the birthday like, man?
It's
What
the
you end up
best
doing? I
birthday,
know,
man. I got to
huh?
zoom in with my homeboys, my family, my mom, uh, just a bunch of family members just zooming in. Uh, that was cool because it was a chance for everybody to get to see each other. Usually we have big gatherings and things like that, but it was equally the same. I got the DJ for everybody without being interrupted. You know what I mean?
Oh, so you spin.
Yeah, yeah. So I was spinning for everybody, and that was the first time I could actually get through a party without, my mom or somebody asked me to go do something for them. So I kind of like that when they started making all my birthday parties,
So,
Zoom parties.
question: Are you a laptop DJ? Do you got the vinyls? Do you got the
I'm
CD DJ? How
laptop,
do you
laptop. I'm a
laptop?
laptop DJ. Yeah.
Ain't
I
nothing
ain't
wrong
that
with
deep
that.
in
Ain't
it.
nothing wrong.
Nah, I ain't that deep in it. I'm just playing records. I'm just playing records. I ain't no real DJ DJ.
Hey man, as
But I
long as
can
you play
rock a
the record.
party though. You know what I mean? As long as you can rock a party. I got a
Hell
dope
yeah.
playlist. I can rock a party.
All right, so I mean, I know you a Cali dude. So like, what's your go-to records? You keep it real West Coast. You
Man,
keep it
you
real
already
Bay
know I
Area.
got
How you do it?
sets. I got sets, man. I got a West Coast. I got a rap vibe, a real rap vibe, like a sit down and okay, we listening to some real rap. I got the party vibe. I got the young vibe, old school R&B, whatever you need. You know what I mean? It's that's just
I gotta come to one of your
versatility.
parties, man. I gotta come to a spot once this is
I got I
all
only
done
man,
and
bro, I
settled. I gotta
only
go
play
somewhere.
bombs. I only drop bombs. That's it. I only drop bombs. Ain't enough ain't enough time for no shucking and jiving. Everything is a bomb. You know what
No,
I mean?
that's right. No, that's right. I saw you on Twitter the other day, and we were watching the horse tournament they're doing for the NBA. And
Yeah.
one question I'd love to ask you. It's kind of two-parter. One, have you gotten to hoop? And two, I know you noticed about you said you wish that this tournament was like on Twitch or something or somewhere where it'd be a lot more feasible for people to kind of like get into it and really enjoy it. What were your thoughts on the horse competition with the
I
NBA?
thought it was great. I thought it was a great idea. Um, you know, I, uh, I mean, if I was producing it, I would have done it differently. Make it more TV friendly. You know, the reason why I said I felt like it should be on Twitch is I felt like it should have been aired where people are, where this new audience is finding cool things, right? And so sometimes you can overskip the cool and immediately go commercial.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so when you do that, you kind of miss out on the opportunity to feed the culture and feed the people that are there. You know what I mean? When you look at, like, if Timberland and Swiss Beats, right, did a beat battle on Instagram, then the next one they did on TV, and every other one was on TV, you know what I mean? It wouldn't sound the same.
Right. Right.
You wouldn't have the same vibe, right?
It takes away kind of the authenticity of
Because
it.
your TV is not supposed to like give you that, right? You're not supposed to be like watching, like, you know, a live feed, a live stream feed from somebody's iPad in their background, in their backyard, right? On
Right.
television, you should not be doing that. If you are, it's tough to digest. You know what I mean? Whereas digital, I think that audience has a lot more patience. And you know, I would say it's a broader audience, but it's sometimes harder to penetrate. But I would have loved to find it on digital, and you know, kind of like not waste my TV time, but like have that on TV where I really couldn't like hear it, connect with it. You know what I mean? I feel like it was a more intimate thing if it was on my iPad or on my phone, and it was a part of like my second screen experience. But I think the idea was great, and you know, shout out to the NBA for, you know, still being able to do stuff, and you know, I thought it was a great idea. I just think that, you know, a lot of times when we're creating platforms, certain content needs to exist on certain platforms.
Now, you know, everybody, you know, obviously knows you for your hoop exploits, but you just mentioned it. You know, you're somebody who's very into producing content, whether it's film, TV, digital, investing in a lot of brands and opportunities, social media stars like B Dot from, you know, who was on with the Baron Davis. Um, so as somebody who was in front of the camera as an athlete and now, you know, creating and behind the camera for a lot of that type of stuff, how do you kind of intake content now? Like, do you watch it with the sort of critical lens of, okay, this is what I can do to produce, or maybe like this is something I could take from that, or I could do this better? How do you like kind of consume content now, knowing that you're on the other side of the lens and you've been successful at
Uh,
it for so long?
well, one, I always appreciate, you know, every and all content pretty much is put out there, because it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of communication and execution to pull it off. So it's always like, you know, like humbly kind of diving into it and trying to be as open as possible. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, so really not expect anything, you know, and then from that, just take it as a learning experience and say, all right, this is a part of my film class. This is a part of my, you know, TV and production class. And so I go back or watch a series or something. I give a report on it. You know what I mean? Because I think it ultimately is going to help me. And what I want to build with SLiC is pick out the right shows for our audience and make sure that the right people are creating the right shows on the right platforms for the right audience.
So tell me about SLiC. I know it's you launched it pretty recently, and it stands for Sports Lifestyle and Culture. You know, tell me about the genesis of that, and you know what you're bringing to the table with this company that a lot of companies you may not be bringing to it. What does the Baron Davis lens on production and creating content differ from other places?
Well, I think it's more so like it's the I in SLiC, right?
Mm,
The inclusiveness, the insider, right? It's the innovation, right? And talking about like being inside of culture, right? That
right.
means you got to go a little bit deeper. You know what I mean? That means it's like I'd rather, you know, produce um, documentaries and formats and things like that that are going to be culturally relevant and things that we could always like duplicate and stand the test of time, right? And so really just kind of like understanding where what and how we consume the way we consume it, and then looking at, you know, what's out there and say, all right, well, how can we do, you know, what does our version of a 30 for 30 look like, right? We're not ESPN, so, you know, we want to do something a little different, right? So our tone may be a little different. We want to go more high school, you know, more LA high school first, and then start to expand to other, you know, high school docs and things like that. So it's really, and then it's also giving the insider, right, the opportunity to tell the story from their perspective. Like, when do you ever, you know, when do you ever see a documentary that is told by like an athlete's peers, more so sports writers, you know what I mean, or sports reporters, right? It's like the people who know you the least, right,
Right.
are all a part of like your life story and your documentary, telling people like who and what you are. I think in some cases it's relevant because you know, the media and sports reporters and sports writers play such an integral part in writing the narrative. You know what I mean? But as far as like, they can't capture everyone who was somebody, or everybody that was a brand. And so for us, we want to be able to um, honor the legends, give them a place to exist, right? And a place where legends continue to live. So we have a lot of legends in sports. We have a lot of legends in culture, right, that don't get their roses or their just due. And so for us, we're like, yo, if we can partner with them and tell their story from their perspective, which we all want to do, then that's what SLiC is a platform for.
So, I mean, you come from a very distinct perspective when it comes to telling athlete stories, because you were that guy. You were, you know, Mr. Basketball in Los Angeles. You went to UCLA. You balled out in the NBA, came to Golden State. So I could see why, you know, the film and production lane could kind of like come from being in LA. But you base this company out of the Bay Area and the technology hub of the world right now.
Mhm.
Was that purposefully done? Like, were you trying to move yourself out of LA so it could be like, okay, I
No,
don't want people just looking at me as like, oh, this is Baron Davis, UCLA icon. No, this is Baron Davis, like, you know, the guy who knows that everything is moving digital, everything's moving tech, and I got to be in the city that produces the top tier of that.
not at all.
Mm,
I would say it's the exact opposite. You know, I love the Bay Area. I live in the Bay. It's like a second home to me.
yeah.
But you know, I kind of saw this wave happening in LA, and I would say for me, it's to stand up and say, "Yo, LA has talent. There's a great opportunity for, you know, engineers, entrepreneurs to come here and create, just as much as it is a place for people to be in Hollywood." And so for me, where I'm at, um, being in tech, being in media, you know, LA is a perfect place for me because I think that's where we're able to kind of build these inroads from media to technology to consumer, right, to the right audience that'll allow us to really like highlight the people that we should, highlight the people that we haven't heard of, and really like give some cool backstory and some cool information about stories and situations that are from, you know, from the person or the people that were really involved. So being in the Bay Area, I think for me is really about building that bridge for, you know, the Bay and LA as far as media, storytelling, and technology. And, you know, a lot of my time is spent up there because a lot of my friends are there.
Mhm.
A lot of the things that I learned, a lot of my mentors. And so for me, it's about really just having a presence there because it is a home and it's a place where, you know, I kind of do a lot of my sit back thinking, plotting, strategy, things like that.
Gotcha. Now, WTF Baron Davis was, you know, on Hulu, on Fuse. B Dot, who's the guy we, you know, everybody follows on Instagram,
Yeah.
follows, super funny. Great show that was out there. We're waiting for season two. Was that sort of the direction you were trying to go as far as like finding those athletes and finding those people that may not necessarily be people in the NBA, might not necessarily be like the high school stars, but like those are people in the culture. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think the goal of that show was to create a a more urban version of Curb Your Enthusiasm,
right.
but to create it as a for a digital premium audience. So people like going to B Dot first, and it was just like B Dot, you should be active, man. You can be a star. You know what I mean? And I started with B Dot, and then I just kind of like started basing the characters in the show around like what our relationship would be. Um, and then I just start finding dudes on the internet that I like. A couple of guys through auditions. We changed some roles to fit some people, and I think the beauty of the show was the fact that we showed that we can do high quality content with people who haven't been given a chance. So if you give the right people a chance, right, you can come out with something that no matter what television says, like, everybody is expecting a season two and wants a season two. So that just increased our chances for that. And when we're out pitching now for season two to networks, we can look at our Instagram and look at our Facebook and YouTube and all that, and you see the comments, and that this is something that the culture wants, and it's just a matter of who's going to promote it and get it out there. And so the reason why we built SLiC was to be able to do more and more things like, WTF, where we can take influencers, athletes, now, I got dudes like Jeff Green hitting me. I got a role for him in my next episode. I got a role for
Nice.
CJ McCullough. I got roles for D Wade. I got a role for Steph Curry and his wife. You know what I mean? I just be like sitting back, just coming up with fun and funny episodes. So it's good to get the type of response and the love, but then it's also good to like make fun of yourself and have a show where athletes can come on and like play themselves, will play a version of themselves that people could fall in love with.
Awesome. And I'm a big fan of the show, bro. So I really hope it gets that season two, man.
Thank you.
Dude, so I got the Black Santa hoodie. You know what I mean? Like I was wearing it around town. Everybody
Yeah,
was asking me about it, because I was living in Harlem at
because
the
you look like
time.
him.
So, and I
That's
kind of
you.
look like dude. So they're like, yo, is that you? I'm
That's
like,
you.
nah. But it's funny because the dude who, anyway, they know what they're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Let's talk about Black Santa, man.
Okay.
The tagline is "We need heroes." So, I would love for you to just kind of expand upon it, and especially, young Black children that don't necessarily see these traditionally, iconic, you know, I don't want to say fictional characters, but like these heroes that they grow up with, they never really look like us, right? But
Right.
I would just love to hear your point of view on the Black Santa project, and going 3 to 4 years in, what we could see from the future of that.
No, I would say it's been a humbling experience. That was my first step in really being a creative entrepreneur, and my first step was like, what can I give to the culture? What can I contribute that could have long-standing power and be, more important than it is um, something that benefits me. And so when thinking of Black Santa, it was like, yeah, we don't have a Black Santa Claus. So I created Nick Nicholson, and basically created his backstory of how he became how he became a Santa. And I just started working on it, telling this narrative, like entertaining myself, trying to develop it as an origin story first. So I didn't have, I didn't want to write it down so somebody can read it, steal the idea, and go take it.
Mhm.
So just kind of like really understanding our roots and how a lot of our history, dating back to Africa, was through communications and through certain orators and gatekeepers. And so for me, it was like I wanted to build that origin story exactly like that and be able to only tell it to people, right, until the brand was complete. And as we start to work on the logo, work on the character, you just start falling in love with the fact that, I've never seen a Black man that when I look at him, I feel good. I feel jolly. I feel like comfortable. I feel like I can give him a hug. I know that he's on time. You know what I mean? I know that he has gifts. And I was like, dude, and right? You start laughing when you see, like, when you realize, like, there is no person of any sort of any story in our history that is made up of that, right?
Right.
And when when I was out kind of pitching the idea, people were telling me like, well, what's his origin story? And I was like, well, what's the origin story of Santa Claus?
Same page.
Right? There is no origin story,
Yeah.
right? Coca-Cola thought it was a good idea to trademark, you know what I mean? A brand, I think it was Coke, thought it was a good idea to create,
Pepsi.
fictitious character, Pepsi, right? Create a fictitious character, and now this person, is now responsible for, our entire holidays. And, I watch, my mom, I watch my grandparents, I watch cousins, aunties, and people like that break their necks at Christmas, you know what I mean? And sometimes not have an opportunity to provide for their kids for Christmas, and you don't know what to tell them. And as a kid who didn't have nothing and was underprivileged, right? It's not that I didn't lack, you know what I'm saying? But you just feel like, well, Santa Claus ain't coming to the ghetto, right?
Yeah.
Or Santa Claus ain't flying over my apartment building, or Santa Claus ain't flying to the projects. You know what I mean?
Ain't no chimneys in the hood.
Right. And so for me, it was like, well, shit, Santa Claus should, right? And why should it just be one Santa Claus? It should be a whole team of Santas. It should be a league of Santas, right? Christmas should be so big around the world that there's no way just one jolly guy can just, do that, right? So, I just started thinking about, Black Santa being the first, then thinking about the League of Santas and how he was going to be the Santa Claus that really was like, the guy who sat at the table and brought everybody together, right? And just showing how, we accept people into our culture, right? And a lot of times we're very like forgiving and understanding and wanting
Almost too
to
forgiving sometimes.
and wanting to express ourselves. And so it was like, why can't we do this in a place and in a position that we've never really seen? And so when you start thinking about that impact on, the 5-year-old Kaz, right? The 4-year-old Kaz, the 4-year-old BD. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh shit, I'm waking up and I can like be happy go lucky and not think that I'm gonna be like considered a buster or you know what I mean, something
Right.
wrong with me. You know what I mean?
Small
Yeah.
pussy. Yeah.
Or even to have a Santa Claus, right? To have somebody to be like, yo, I can relate to that. Like I can do good for that. Like something that was in your house that looked like you, that felt like you know what I mean? And it's nothing wrong with it. It's nothing wrong with creating opportunities, character stories, things like that that make you love yourself and make you understand yourself better. Because for me, that's what Walt Disney did. You know what I mean? And when he thought about it, he tried to include everyone in the world and tell a story about where everyone was. And I think that when you think about where the world was and what he was trying to do, right? He was trying to like include everybody and break down stereotypes. You know what I mean? And I think that as we continue to go, we have to like really dig a little deeper, right? And it's not that deep, right? We just have to be able to um, accept all forms of art, right? Accept ourselves, support ourselves, love ourselves, find stories, find things that can represent us, that, can tie into the things that we love to do as a community and as a culture. And so for me, that's like how I build, how I create is like, what is the overall message? If it's you know, a character like Black Santa is like, you know, giving has no season, right? That's our slogan. Bless someone, that's our slogan, right? And you know, Black Santa, his whole thing was as he was studying become a Santa Claus, he was like studying so hard that he fell asleep. And he started studying the naughty list. And he realized that, wow, there's a lot of kids on this naughty list. And so when he went to check the naughty list, he saw he was just checking a kid's name, and he started doing some research, right? And the more research he did, he realized that the kid wasn't actually naughty, right? The kid was just was developed into some rough circumstances. And so Nick Nicholson decided that the naughty list really like don't have real measurable, you know what I mean, causes or real measurable data to tell if a kid is naughty or nice. And so that goes back to the 4-year-old Cass. I mean, I don't know how you grew up, but the 4-year-old BD, right? That when you couldn't get a Christmas present, it was like that's because you was bad.
It was bad, but
And it was like, I'm
not
not a
really.
good kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all kids are
You don't
bad.
get it
You know
as
what I mean?
kids
But
though.
all kids are good kids. But if you don't have nobody like thinking about bringing you gifts or thinking about like the spirit of what they want you to be in, it don't matter where, you know, it's religious or anything. It's just really about art and expression of art in a way to communicate, you know, our social emotions and that social emotion that I want to hit is really like fun and happiness.
Yeah, man. And I feel like a lot of people, especially in your position, the position to produce this sort of content and get it in front of networks or get it anywhere that it can be seen. I mean, we're seeing it a lot more. But you know, and when we were growing up and that sort of age, like we never saw people like that looked like us in sort of like even the fact that like Black Panther did so well
Yeah.
and you know and just any sort of uh superhero or fictional character. Like they just never ever looked like us. Like we could never just be like upstanding, good human beings. And you know, there was
Right.
many layers to us. It was like, you're Black, so you're this. You know what I'm saying? But I'm really glad that the content you're creating is not just opening up for athletes and being able to tell their stories, but just young Black people in general, and just being
Yeah.
able to know, like, hey man, it's deeper than whatever is on the surface, what's been fed to you your whole life, you know, because if you see one thing your whole life, you're just conditioned to it.
Right.
And it takes a lot of unconditioning to create things that are very, that make a lot of sense. And in the long run, great, it does well and people watch it. But, you know, you're creating something that is instilled in young people that, you know, you don't have to be like this. You don't have to be seen as this sort of stereotype that's been put out there that you had
Right.
nothing to do with. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's crazy we went this long and didn't even talk hoops yet. So I
I
would
know,
love
bro.
yeah, I'd love to talk a little bit of hoops before I get you out of here. I know you're super busy. But you know, you mentioned how much you love the Bay Area and you loved you know, playing for Golden State. And one of my favorite teams I got to watch was that Golden State team with you and Matt Barnes and Steven
Yeah.
Jackson and you know Monte Ellis, you know, and that great 8-1 victory over the Dallas Mavericks in the Oracle Arena, and how wild that was. Um, that kind of set the tone for what success looks like in the Bay, what success looks like when Oakland is popping, or Golden
Uh-huh.
State is popping. Take me back to those days as a Golden State Warrior and that specific playoff run against the Dallas Mavericks, where in no uncertain terms you punked the Mavericks, like y'all punked them, like yeah, was it? They
Yeah, I
see
would, I would, I would, I wouldn't necessarily. You know what? It's that's what people say. We punked them. We didn't punk them. We beat them playing basketball.
facts.
We're smarter than them. We're quicker than them. We would just never get credit for it, right? We had better basketball players on the court. Our 5 basketball players on the floor always outnumbered their 5. Even though Dirk is a Hall of
Dirk
Famer,
was
you know what I
MVP
mean?
that year.
Dirk is like a transcending player. You
Yeah.
feel what I'm saying? Like our 5 guys were better basketball players, smarter basketball players, more versatile basketball players, hungrier basketball players. You know what I mean? And so a lot of times it was like people were like, oh, y'all thugged them or y'all play street ball. It was like, man, we was playing basketball. Watch the games. You know what I mean? Watch the games. Watch the way we pass the ball. You know what I mean? Just watch, like, it takes a high level of intellect, a high level of skill. You have to practice a high level like that. You know what I mean? And an extreme level of confidence. You know what I mean? Not only in yourself, but in your teammates to know what you can and can't do. Because when you play at that type of speed and frequency, you know what I mean? Like the volatility of the game is like highs and lows. So you can be down 15 just as much as you can be up 15 and be ready to blow them out. But even though you're down 15, you know that you can get back into the game. You know what I mean? But it's like you really playing in a space where it's like it's so volatile, you know what I mean? That the middle is even more pressure because it's just as scared. You know what I mean? Because, you know, we 2 down 6. And, you know, we used to always say on the road, if we down 6 with 4 minutes to go, oh, we going to win because we just two stops away, 2 threes from tying it up. And we got a nice chance to win. At home, we want to be up 6, you know? And so it's just like when you start looking at the way we played, like we played at such a high level, but like we always shared the ball. We were always unselfish. It didn't matter who had the shot or who's going that night. You know what I mean? Jay Rich played out of position, but he played in position. Steven Jackson played out of position, but he played in position. Al Harrington played out of position, but he played in position. You know what I mean? Matt Barnes, Monte, et cetera, et cetera. And like, you know, imagine a world where it's me, Jay Rich, Monte, Steven Jackson, and Matt Barnes all on the floor at the same time, right? And we're playing against the top team in the NBA. You gotta have a certain type of like collective intellect, right? To even play with, you know, it's just like when you're dealing in that level in Dallas, they were a machine. You know what I mean? They were a machine. They were a system. And I think that their system was built for them to go forward in these rounds to win the NBA championship that year. I think what happened was their system did not mesh with the way we wanted to play.
Right.
You know what I mean? We had a mentality of like, you know what I mean? Fuck
I would say y'all versatility as well. I mean,
because when you look at everybody, everybody was built like the Detroits, like the San Antonios. You know what I mean? And so with us, we were really like on some Breakfast Club shit, right? Like we were the kids in detention that were just like, all right, dude, we're gonna fucking win the spelling bee contest or join the debate team and win because we're actually smart, just as smart as the Glee Club or whatnot. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so like when the NBA had these structures, they was building, you know, you have to have a Paul Gasol, a Tim Duncan, a Kevin Garnett, you know what I mean? Rasheed Wallace, one of them dudes to kind of anchor you. And, you know, we had Al Harrington, Andres Beatrice was our center. You know what I'm saying? So for us, it was just like we were everything that was different about the system. So it was really like 2 systems colliding, and that wasn't a good idea for the Dallas Mavericks because they could have played the Los Angeles Clippers in the first round. But the Clippers, in the way that they were structured, was structured to beat Dallas. Like they were more so considered a tougher opponent because you have the component of Kaman and Brand, 2 big guys, Cassell, Mobley, Maggette. You had all those, you know what I mean? You had like the same type of systematic structure that Dallas had. So it seemed like, yo, we're going to get into a slugfest with these dudes. You know what I mean? Because they play slow down basketball, play through the 4. our styles are like not the same, but whoever can get hot, we can beat the Clippers because we faster than them, right?
I almost feel like I would watch y'all team, and that specific Warriors team feels like they could have played just as well in 2020 because it was like a lot of
Yeah, for
versatility.
sure. I mean, I think
You,
our team was built. I think our team was ahead of its time, and it was built for more like this day and age. You know what I mean? Just thinking about the Warrior teams, how we would match up against them, how we would match up against the Cleveland. It was just like we had a dedicated person. You know what I mean? And really like a man and a half because we are also versatile to play at any position, right? And we are a mismatch problem all over the floor, at every position. So it was hard to like just kind of key on one person.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And I think
yeah.
in this era, it would have been a lot more free flowing for us. You know what I mean? To play at a high frequency. But back then, you running into teams that are bigger than you that just ain't having that shit. They just don't want to run. You know what I mean?
It was a different
Shot
game
ain't
back then.
falling. You can't get the rebound. It's like it'd be nice like that. So, we were just always fighting the uphill battle because of our size and because of the way we play. But we had so much fun playing like that, and we got so much smarter as basketball players, understanding, how to read defenses, how to read offenses, how to like take advantage of the game, understanding when the team is out of sync, understanding moments, right? How critical moments could really like set us up for the end to be able to win or get hot, you know what I mean? And so I think, just kind of like that style and that culture and, one, getting back to the playoffs and breaking that curse. Because, people in the Bay Area thought that they were cursed and we would never get back to the playoffs. So when we got to the playoffs, it was almost like we won the championship. And then we beat Dallas, you know what I mean? It was like, for sure, we won the championship. So it was almost like, like the Beauty and the Beast thing. Like the Beast was no more like an ugly beast. Like, you know what I mean? Like playing in Oakland was no more like an ugly thing or like a graveyard. I remember when I walked in there in the first week I got traded there. They were like, yo, so what do you feel about the first week? I said, I feel like it's a cemetery, dude. And, like we just got to get fired up and motivated about shit, just loving the play no matter what the politics are. Like we getting 17,000 people at the 16,000 people at the game, and like the Warriors have always sucked. You know what I mean? So like, well, there's 16,000 people in here.
I
You
was
know what I mean?
rocking,
I was coming from places where we'd be lucky to get 18. You know what I mean? And we were terrible. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like, I looked in that arena and was like, yo, it's cracking in here. How can we not? You know what I mean? Go out and get busy, because they're going to come back. And I was like, yo, if we can win here, man, I'm telling you, this place is going to erupt. And I think that's what kind of like spearhead, people start looking at Golden State as like, yo, that could be a dope franchise. And start, just the ownership moved in, management moved in. They start looking at, doing the right things. They start bringing the right people in and created that right atmosphere and energy. And I think that what we did was we kind of broke the mold, right? That we're not losers. You know what I mean? We broke that mold. And even though we beat Dallas, we came back, we didn't make it the next year, and everybody kind of broke up. It just showed you that they were still used to losing.
But it's funny because it's like that one team, and I always harken back to like you seen the Fab Five documentary with Jalen Rose, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, "You can't tell me who won the championship that year. You can't tell me what team beat us that year, but you remember that team. You remember that Golden State Warriors team. Remember that Michigan team." And you mentioned about how that the way that team was put together. I would like to just hear about you specifically because I feel like, like you said, this team was built to compete in 2020, but I feel like your skill set specifically when it comes to being an explosive guard, and the league is a lot more wide open now, and you can't really hand check. And who do when you look at the league right now, how do you see yourself performing in 2020 when you see guys like Russell Westbrook and and Harden and even young D Rose and some of these guys? You were kind of like the mold for a lot of these guards.
Yeah, I just wish I never got hurt like that. You know what I mean? I wish my body would have held up. It's funny, like how now I feel so much stronger than I did when I was 30. You know what I mean? And playing. But I just think that, when I came in an era where it wasn't cool to be hurt, and you always played hurt, right? And like you played hurt as a way to survive, to make it out, because there was no tomorrow, there was no fallback.
Right.
And I think now, these kids have so many options. They're already stars. Their path is lit. You know what I mean? And they're allowed to have the freedom to be whoever they want. Where, before you had to be buttoned up. You had to it was all the don'ts, the don'ts, the don'ts, right? And so kind of had to break that mold. But I think that if I play in this era, man, I would only say that I would be my own original person, you know what I mean, and my own original player. So, I probably wouldn't average a triple double, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I'd be somewhere, definitely top 5 in steals and assists, steals and assists and up there in points from point guards. I play defense too, so.
Speaking of which,
I still feel I can play though. I feel like I can average 10 points, 10 points off the bench or something. 5.
I mean, I'm a Knicks guy, so even on your last legs, you still had some of them games. I was like, yo, BD still got something in there.
Getting down, bro. I be still getting down. I mean, as long as you can dribble. That's why I tell my kids at 4 and 5, I'm like, yo, if you can dribble, yo, and you can pass the ball, you can play a long time. You know what I mean? Other than that, just learn how to make some layups and get a jumper that look decent and go in. If it look cool when you shoot it and you got confidence, it'll go in.
Hell yeah. I listened to the Knuckleheads podcast, and they had Dwayne Wade on the episode, future Hall of Famer Dwayne Wade. And they said they always asked these players, who was the first person to really bust my ass? And D Wade said, Baron Davis gave me those drugs the first time we played each other. Tell me about giving D Wade the drugs. And I would love to know who was the first person in the NBA to bust your ass. I'm gonna steal their joint. Who's the first person to give you the business?
Yeah, I said it on the show. I was like, John Stockton was the first person to really give me a real rude awakening. You know what I mean? And it was just it wasn't nothing but just pure disrespect at point guard, because he kept stealing the ball. And I was just like, why is this fool keep stealing the damn ball from me? I'm about to get out. I'm coming off the bench too. And the last thing you can do is have 2 turnovers in a row, let alone 3. And John was sitting on the bench. I was like, man, he ain't that good. I got in the game. It was like, bloop, 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 bloop. I was like, maybe he is. That dude was everywhere, all over the floor. And you talking about an engineer. He was an engineer, dude. Because you realize he's so much in control that whatever you think you're doing is not disrupting what he's doing, because all he's trying to do is get there and then get there. It's there. It's a 90% chance we're gonna get a good field goal. You know what I mean? And it's and I just remember dude, I'm just gonna pressure him, pick him up, you know what I mean, full court, and he just fundamentally walk me down the court like you teach a kid. You know what I mean? When people's pressuring you, get to the elbow, hold his dribble, right? Fake the wave the dude out the post, then call Karl Malone over for a pick and roll, right? And it's like, oh shit, dude. And before you can think about it, you're looking around and you're like, shit, how did he get this much space?
Yeah.
He literally did nothing. He just figured out how to get me off of him, get himself as close as he possibly could to where I felt comfortable enough that he wasn't going to do anything.
Yeah.
And then he did something. And then you're in this moment of like, oh shit. Right. And then when he catches you in that moment, he has you at his mercy. And it was just like, damn, dude, he did it again. Like, it was just like, he was a surgeon, bro. He was a surgeon. John Stockton is one of my all-time favorite point guards. He's like, you know, definitely top 3 on that list for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For real. He was
Hell yeah, man. That's a great story because I feel like people always watch, like, you know how young fans are. They look at John Stockton like, oh, John Stockton, he be nothing in the NBA now. Da, da, da. And then you hear a story from you, and it's like, no, he was that dude.
The NBA right now.
What's up?
He would murder the NBA right
now.
He would murder the NBA right now, dude.
Facts.
You understand? Big facts. He would average like 4 or 5, like easily 4 or 5 steals a game.
He was so, like, I always thought he was just so fucking sneaky. Like, he just always seemed like he was always getting away with an extra little elbow, an extra little tug, an extra little something. But next thing you know, you look up, he has like 4 steals, 12 assists, 4 threes. Like, what?
Bro.
And he was a bucket from deep too.
Bro, he was a engineer, a mathematician, an astrologer. You know what I mean? Like, you feel me? Like, dude, he was like, his shit was on a whole nother level, bro. Don't get me started about damn John Stockton.
I'm sorry to bring you to a negative place.
About John Stockton.
I don't want to bring you that. Let's bring you back into a positive place.
Hey, John Stockton is, man, I'm just incredible, bro. Just incredible. Like, you know what I mean? Like, nothing less of incredible. Right? And when you watch basketball and you want to watch, like, somebody who can get down, John Stockton can get down. He know how to, man, he mastered the game.
Man.
He mastered the game. He mastered his, like, you know what I mean? It's like,
there's some people,
like, you know, like, especially for point guards.
Yeah.
Like, I fan out over point guards, even though, like, you know, it's supposed to be rivals, but I watch, like, all point guards. And to me, like, point guards are like, you know, they're artists. I always relate them to, like, artists or, like, you know, like certain, like, an engineer or something like that, because it's just, you know, it's all about, like, how they kind of wind and weave everything into a place when you're watching, you know, a Rod Strickland and how he get down. Yeah. You know what I mean? You watching a Nick Van Exel and his get down. You feel what I'm saying? Like, you start watching, like, Derrick Rose, and you can appreciate, you know, all the things and all the attributes that he have, and you start saying, okay, like, damn, dog, I like how he paint, like, he get down. You know what I mean?
Do you have a favorite point guard you like to watch right now?
Of course, I like watching Steph Curry.
Yeah.
I like watching James Harden and Russ. I still like watching Chris Paul. I like the kid Shy Glizzy. I like watching Trae Young. Who else do I like?
Dame Lillard.
I love Dame Lillard. I love Kemba Walker. I love his get down. I like De'Aaron Fox. You know, when he free. You know what I mean? When he just free and exploring. I love Lonzo Ball game. You know, you know, Drew Holiday, that's my youngin'. I think Lonzo Ball is like he an artist. He can paint too. You know what I mean? And I can't wait to see, like, like once he become the point guard shit is like some like it's like the hardest position to play because you gotta
Like
adjust
quarterback in the
to
NFL.
everybody. Yeah, and so now you seeing him with Zion and some people around, you gonna start seeing him, I think do some amazing things. I mean, what other point guards is it in the league? I mean, you name them, and I will tell you like,
I mean, we got
a
Kyle
great
Lowry.
deal of
What do you
respect.
think of Ben Simmons at
I
point?
love Ben Simmons, dude.
Mm,
I love Ben Simmons, big guard. Like he's the deal.
yeah, I
He's
mean,
the deal. He's the deal. You know
real
what I
good.
mean? He's the deal. Like he's a point guard. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like he's literally a point guard. You know what I mean? At
we're built like
6'10".
Carmelo.
At 6'10", you know what I'm saying? So I like his game. I think that, he got more in him and there's more to come from him. Um, who else do I like? Shit, I'm trying to think what teams is out there.
Man, I mean, you got. Yeah, you got. I mean, I love Lou Will. He's not your traditional point guard, but he a bucket.
Yeah, Lou Will not a point guard though.
Yeah,
I love Lou Will game. Like as
he's the
far
guy.
as
Go
gamers
get me a bucket,
playing,
Lou.
like I like watching Patrick Beverly too.
Yeah, like Pat Bev, like Pat
I
Bev.
just like how he get down. I like
Mm.
Devontae Graham. He's nice.
I mean, so what you think about a guy like Nikola Jokic, who's not necessarily a point guard, but he a magician too. He an artist too. He just
Oh, you
7
mean
feet
the
tall.
big dude?
Big
The
dude from
Joker?
Denver. Yeah, yeah, the
Oh,
Joker.
hell yeah. He's sick, yo. He's
Dude,
sick. He's super sick.
oh
He's
yeah.
super sick.
Like
He's
he's
big
low
time
key my
talent.
favorite ball player to watch.
Bro, he is big time fucking talent.
Hell
He
yeah.
need one more person with him.
Yeah, and Denver's nice too. I think Michael Porter Jr. when he puts it all
Michael
together.
Porter is nice. Michael Porter nice. But I think Denver, they need one more. They need an animal. They
Yeah.
need somebody who like has the ability to like go unconscious. You know what I mean? They need that.
I feel like they're waiting for like Jamal Murray to be that.
Jokers do everything, bro.
Yeah.
He do everything. Jamal Murray, I like his game too. He hella dynamic. When I'm talking about like, you gotta like, there needs to be they need an X factor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
But it's hard being in Denver though, because it's like
who
it's hard
is
to get
that
people to go
dude?
over
Like
there.
if they had like a Lou Will, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or somebody like that, just somebody that was just like, just a stone cold killer. You know what I mean? Like somebody who's just used to coming into the game and just doing whatever the fuck they want. Right? And I think Denver has a lot of great players, a lot of great talent. They don't have nobody on their team that can do what they want when they want to do it. Right? That's the only thing that's separating Denver from, potentially getting to the Western Conference Finals and the championship. It's like you got to be able to be like, you got to have that dude to be like, yo, give me the ball. Give it to me, dog.
Yeah.
Everybody cool. Get out the way. Oh, it's a double team. I'm not tripping.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. You gotta have that with him. You know what I mean? Like, or somebody with like that mentality, right? Like that tooth and nail, like that go-to, somebody who was just born to take big shots and get money, right? I think that's what Denver is missing. I think that's the only thing that they're missing, right?
All right, man. So, I mean, last thing I want to ask you before we get out of here. Obviously, the NBA season's in flux. We don't know if it's coming back, when it will. But at the time we got held up, you mentioned it. Denver, they still need one more guy. Lakers still out there. Clippers out there. Rockets are starting to figure it out with like their small ball sort of thing. Who do you have coming out of the West and coming out of the East if they figure it out in the next couple of months and we get back to basketball?
First and foremost, just want everybody to come out of this, 100% healthy. You know what I mean? Wishing that we can get back, to our lives, get back to these arenas, get back to practices, just kind of like consuming the game and the sport that we love. You know, I think it's been well more than enough time for us to reflect on our appreciation for the things and the gifts that God has given us in the industries that we're in. And so, you know, right now I don't really care about no championship. I just really want to see the NBA and the players get back in their rightful and, you know, healthy space and not be rushed. You know what I mean? Because it's just a beautiful thing and a special thing. You know, what we do in the game that we're a part of, you know what I mean? And the game we have been a part of and still allowed to be a part of. And so it's like, basically, it's like the way I look at All-Star Weekend is a family reunion. Just can't wait to see like my brothers and everybody else getting back to doing what they do and enjoying what they do.
Hell yeah. All of us too, man. All of us
Thank you,
too.
man. I appreciate it, man.
Of course. So before we get out of here, you want to talk about the business and inside the game power summit and putting that
Oh
together before
man,
we get out.
yeah, I've been on this for a minute. I gotta go take care of these kids.
Yeah.
We have to do part 2, business inside the game. I actually have you on my podcast, Business Inside the Game.
Let's do it.
You know, and Business Inside the Game is for entrepreneurs. It's advice for entrepreneurs, investors, people trying to, you know, further their career in creative and business. Just listening to some of the people who are out there fighting the fight, walking the walk, talking the talk, and it's really, you know, that I again is for inside, right? It's like we want to be inside the business of sports, inside the business of basketball and tech, commerce, finance, things like that, and be able to give tools and opportunities to the 99% that the 1% will have. So that's pretty much what we're doing, and we're talking about it right now over live stream, over podcast. And, you know, we have some great guests, some great entrepreneurs at different phases, different stages of their companies. And so, you know, for me, it's better to give them a platform than to like write a book about shit that I don't know. So yeah, it's better to hear it from the expert's mouth, man. And that's why I created Business Inside the Game. So I appreciate you for letting me talk about that. Appreciate you having me on the show, man.
BD, yo, legend. Thank you so much for coming through. I know we only promised 30 minutes, but you get, damn, they gave me an hour, bro, and I'm always grateful for it.
All right.
Can't wait till all this is over so we can get up and catch up again, man. More power to you. Give my best to the family.
All right,
love, bro. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Say Less. You can always subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Podbean, anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you want to watch this video in its entirety, go to youtube.com/Kazeem. That was Baron Davis. You can catch him on WTF Baron Davis. You can catch him with SLiC, No Label, Black Santa Project. Watch some old games. We all watch old games so this coronavirus thing blows over. But anyway, this is Kaz. Appreciate you listening. We'll see you tomorrow. Say less.